Okay, first of all, it's Tuvalu, not Tuvalu. Emphasis on the va, just saying. Anyway, our last Polynesian country. Can't believe we made it this far.
Hey, we're not done with Oceania yet, though.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said Polynesian, not Melanesian.
Okay. Just make sure you don't forget me.
It's literally my job not to. Anyway, Tuvalu. This is one country I've been dying to make a video on because it's unlike any other Polynesian country. Tuvalu is a nation that is both growing and shrinking, fighting and flourishing. So much to discuss. Let's just dive into the Pacific and start the show.
It's time to learn geography. No!
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Oh, what am I wearing? A Geography Now shirt. Oh, and you can get it at geographynow.com plus other Geography Now merchandise. It's not selling out if it's your brand. By the way, yes, I texted up Thomas from Yes Theory and he said I could use some of the footage from his video from when he went to Tuvalu. Thank you, Thomas. Sorry you could not be in the Sweden episode. So I really wanted to go to Tuvalu for this episode. However, during the time of researching and filming this episode, Tuvalu required a 7-day quarantine for all visitors and I just didn't have that kind of time and money. However, I got really lucky. I found not only one, but two actual Tuvaluans. Tuvaluans. Say hi to Lototele.
Hi everyone, my name is Lototele. I am a proud Tuvaluan and I am currently living here in Australia. I am specifically from the North Atoll of Nanumea. It is such an honor for me to be a part of this video and I thank you Barbs for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Lototele. And as for the other Tuvaluan, she lived in the USA. That meant I had to fly her out to co-host this episode with me. And say hi to Carrie. How you doing, Carrie?
Great. How are you all?
You are officially one of the rarest people we've ever had on the show. How do you feel about that?
It's an honor to be here.
You grew up in Tuvalu.
Yeah, straight out of Tuvalu.
Straight out of Tuvalu.
Come to Tuvalu and get the real experience of being there.
Pretty simple. All right, Carrie, so you ready to start this episode?
Yes, but we gotta start it right.
Whoa, okay. That's awesome. I guess we're doing this. All right, Carrie, first of all, explain, what are you wearing?
It's called a faux.
A faux?
And on my neck, it's called a fafetu. It's made out of seashells. So Tuvalu means 8 standing islands, which is referencing to the 8 original or main islands in Tuvalu.
Yeah, as we'll soon find out, each island and atoll kind of has their own unique sense of identity. But first, let's point it out on the map, shall we? First of all, the country lies in the subregion of Polynesia in the Pacific Ocean, which stretches in a triangle shape from New Zealand, Hawaii, and Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. The country is made up of 6 thin coral reef atolls and 3 coral reef islands, only making up about 26 square kilometers or just over 10 square miles in area. This makes them the 3rd or 4th smallest country in landmass after Nauru, Monaco, and if you consider it, the Vatican City. Now, the capital of Tuvalu is Funafuti, which is this entire atoll here, the largest atoll of the country, spanning about 18 kilometers long and 14 kilometers wide. If you want to be super technical though, some might say that Fongafale Island within the atoll, or Vaiaku, the town on Fongafale Island, is the quote-unquote capital, but administratively, the entire atoll is considered the capital as they have a singular legislation. Here on this atoll, about half of the entire country's population lives. The country is divided into 8 government districts, which basically pertain to the 8 main atoll islands, with Niu Lakita Island falling under Niu Tao's administration. Even though Niu Lakita was always known of, it was always an outlier that was left empty most of the time. Finally, in the 1940s, it was permanently settled by people from Niu Tao, and today, less than 40 people live on it. The country's only international airport lies on Fongafale Island, Funafuti International Airport, whose IATA code is FUN. There used to be 2 other airstrips that were constructed during World War II on Nanumea and Motulalo, but have since then been dismantled and returned back to the inhabitants and are now covered mostly by coconut trees. The entire country only has about 5 miles or 8 kilometers of paved road, all on Fongafale Island. Inter-island travel is mostly done by small boats. Each inhabited island has some kind of wharf for small boats, with carved out harbors on the coral reefs to assist with deeper hulled boats. The largest navigable harbors in the country can be found on Fongafale and Vaitupu. If you wish to traverse these atolls, you will have to catch a ride on the government-owned supply ships Nivaga 2 and Manufolau. They make crossings to the outer atolls and islands once every 3 to 4 weeks, and the entire trip can last about 4 days to a week.
Quick side note, to the ocean side, we call it Yuta, and to the lagoon side, we say Tai.
Keep in mind, if you would like to take that boat ride to the outer atolls, contact the Marine Services Office in Funafuti to look up your options.
Don't forget to bring your own food and drinking water because there is not much supply on the boat for all the passengers.
Yeah, you gotta bring your own. By the way, have you been on that boat? Have you gone to the other islands and atolls?
Too many times to remember. I do not go as often as I should because I get seasick, and I'm an island girl who doesn't know how to swim.
You don't swim.
I don't swim.
You don't swim, you don't like going on boats, and you're the Tuvalu correspondent for this episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Another side note, at somewhere around 2,000 tourists annually, Tuvalu is actually ranked as the second or first least visited country on Earth, with Nauru, depending on how you categorize visitors. I mean, that whole detention center on Nauru gets a lot of international attention, if we're going to be technical.
Hey, we just made that deal with Australia. It is what it is, all right?
It's pretty crazy because Tuvalu has a super open visa, but the problem is getting there.
Yeah, to this day, there are only 2 international airlines that fly directly to Funafuti Airport. Fiji Link, a subsidiary of Fiji Airlines, and Air Kiribati actually just opened up their 1 weekly flight on Wednesdays. If you arrive, accommodations are kind of limited for booking. There's only 1 real hotel and a few guest houses on Vaiaku.
Otherwise, if you know somebody like me, you can save money and stay with us, or I have relatives you can stay with.
Ooh, if I go there, can I use some of your connections?
No, actually we live underwater.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you guys, yeah.
I'm just joking.
Now, Tuvalu was always inhabited primarily by Polynesians. Eventually, they fell under British protectorate status in the late 19th century under the name of the Ellis Islands.
Later on, Tuvalu joined, well, now known as Kiribati, as one colony from 1916 to 1975.
You guys used to be one colony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Tuvalu played an important role in World War II as islands were used as temporary bases for military operations against the Japanese, which is why today you can actually see countless World War II wreck sites from planes and ships all over the country.
Speaking of cool things, we can go back and see what Lototele has.
Take it away, Lototele.
I'm back, guys. I'm going to list you some places that you might want to check out if you ever decide to visit Tuvalu. First, if you can try and visit the outer islands outside of the capital of Funafuti. Of course, there are many pristine beaches, mainly with the atolls like Nanumea, Nukfetau, Kulailai, Nui. Also, there is a monument between the friendship of Nukfetau and Nanumea, and you can actually find one on each island. On each island, they have their own beautiful church buildings. The one mainly for the Funafuti people, called the Fetu Aolima. Also, on each island, there is something called like a meeting house, which we called a maneapa. But if you do stay in Funafuti and you don't have enough time to check out the other islands, you can check out maybe our most popular place, the airstrip itself. That becomes a playground. At the end of the day, most people will go and chill, play games, will do whatever on there. There is the Stamp Museum, the Women's Craft Center. You can also check out the biggest building in Tuvalu, called the Office Alahi, Muli Te Fala, which has Afilita's Island Resort. You can also check out David's drill site. There's an interesting story about that one. You should look that up. Those are just some places you might want to jot down if you ever plan on coming. I suggest you guys do come. It's all about the experience, and I'll see you over there. And back to you, Barbs.
Thank you, Lototele. Carrie, what's your favorite place to visit when you go to Tuvalu?
The road.
The road?
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
the road?
Yeah, the road. Going for motorcycle cruising. We call it Launi.
It's so crazy how you guys have so much to see with so little land to stand on. We're going to talk more about that in the next segment.
There's actually a creation myth for Tuvalu. They actually have a song for it. You can ask any Tuvaluan to sing for you.
Yeah.
Not me, though.
I'm not gonna sing.
No.
You can't swim, you can't go on boats, and you can't sing. Great Tuvalu! So with Tuvalu, the topic of land is an ever ongoing discussion because they kind of, have a very limited amount of it.
We are one of the only 4 countries on Earth formed entirely from raised coral atolls. We've become water people.
Water people. Let's talk a little bit more about the physical land makeup in the motion graphic.
Tuvalu is located in the Central Pacific Basin and the Melanesian Basin of the Pacific Ocean, where most geothermal activity is mild and weak as opposed to the Ring of Fire surrounding it. Despite having very little landmass, the entire country spans a length of about 423 miles wide, or 680 kilometers, from the southernmost part on Niulakita Island to the northernmost island on Nanumea. This means the exclusive economic zone of their water territory makes up about 290,000 square miles or 750,000 square kilometers. Or, in short, they have about 29,000 times more water than land. For the land, though, Tuvalu sits on a low-lying raised coral atoll archipelago. This means that the islands that make up Tuvalu are essentially the protruding rim edges of submerged, extinct, or dormant volcano craters. This explains why 6 of the landmasses are thin, ring-shaped atolls with central lagoons, while the remaining 3 are just raised coral platform islands. Tuvalu has the second lowest maximum elevation out of any country after the Maldives, with an average only about 2 to 3 meters above sea level. Their highest point is actually only 4.6 meters on Niulakita Island, the small guy down south that almost nobody lives on. Of course, with the lack of land, there are of course no rivers. However, each island does have their own degree of freshwater ponds and wells. The largest inland body of water completely closed off that is not a lagoon, though, would be Vaitoa Pond, which is actually brackish water with some salinity due to the underground saltwater protrusion. In fact, most people receive fresh water through rainfall rainfall collection, not ponds. In terms of weather though, Tuvalu gets enough rain, however it is generally outside the cyclone belt of the Pacific. This means that they rarely get hit with heavy damaging tropical storms, but they are vulnerable to sea level erosion whenever a strong storm or large wave comes by, especially the thinner, narrower islands.
So if you've heard anything about Tuvalu in the past decade or so, you've probably heard that Tuvalu is sinking, which is kind of true, but also kind of not true. It depends on where in Tuvalu.
The University of Auckland observed the islands nearly 5 decades from the 70s and found that the country overall actually grew by 73 hectares or 2.5% in landmass.
The thing is, it only applied to 73% of the islands, whereas the remaining 27% of the islands decreased in land area and one island even disappeared altogether. According to the data, studies suggest that this is most likely the result of sediment or debris that is washed up on the shores by waves and storms that increase the land mass, mostly in the more fortified islands like Niuetal, Nanumanga, and Vaitupu.
Unfortunately, this also means that thinner, wispier atolls and islands like Funafuti and Nukfetau are more vulnerable to soil erosion and saltwater protrusion. This is because their physical makeup may not be strong enough to withstand the constant barrage of storm and king tide activity.
What exactly is a king tide, you ask?
A king tide is essentially a tide that is created when the alignments of the Earth, Moon, and Sun combine to create the largest tidal effect of the year. For Tuvalu, this usually occurs in March to May, and the country is affected heavily.
So yeah, long story short, this means that the bigger islands and atolls are actually kind of okay and may even grow a little bit more, but the smaller, skinnier ones are the ones that suffer more.
Every time I go back to Funafuti, I feel like it's getting smaller.
Which is crazy because the most people live on that part of the country. It's like...
Yes, it's the capital. Bless their hearts.
Fortunately, Tuvalu is working on addressing this issue via the Tuvalu Coastal Adaptation Project, or TCAP.
Some people are taking matters into their own hands, like planting mangroves on the shallows to prevent coastal erosion while simultaneously helping the wildlife.
There's a lot more we could discuss, but to give us the rundown, here's Noah to finish off the physical geography segment.
Transform! Let's get to it. All right, let's give you a review of Tuvalu's resources. For one, everything is limited and simple operation-wise. They have no national newspaper, one radio station. Satellite TV is only available by subscription. However, a few years ago, they just started their first national TV channel. Funafuti is the only island with a full functioning hospital. All other islands have small clinics staffed with usually a nurse and midwife. Under the Majuro Declaration signed in 2013, Tuvalu has been a recipient of numerous programs. They were aimed at introducing new renewable energy sources, as the majority of islands operate off of diesel-fueled power. This means, depending on the island, electricity is usually run for about 12 to 18 hours a day and shut off during the night. Due to the limited land and poor soil quality, Tuvalu is not exactly a farming/planting powerhouse. To address food insecurity issues, the Taiwanese ICDF and Technical Mission stepped in to initiate the horticulture expansion project. One major source of national revenue? Well, believe it or not, internet royalties. When the internet came along, Tuvalu was granted the URL suffix .tv extension. It basically went like this.
Okay. Let's see. We barely have an airport and we have no paved roads. All we can really do is grant fishing licenses to other countries. What are we going to do?
Mr. Boland, we just received a fax from the ISO 3166 maintenance agency that says our country was assigned .tv URL extension for the internet.
The internet? What the fuck is that? Oh shit! We just struck digital gold!
You've probably seen websites with domains that end in .tv, right? Well, part of the registration payments go directly to Tuvalu for that. Crazy, right? It's like, welcome to the digital era where intangible concepts equal cash.
It's also how Geography Now started. Woohoo! High five so hard.
What can I say? Finally, Tuvalu kind of wishes they had more tourists, but they still have some work to do. Today, there are no official tourism companies. No cruise ships visit. They don't even have a large enough dock, which is pretty sad because there's so much the beauty the coral atolls offer to see. With that, let's bring it over to Gary Harlow.
It's Gary Harlow again. More like Tuva. Woohoo! As a small atoll nation, much of Tuvalu's fascinating biodiversity lies within the oceans, and especially in the middle are the shallow lagoons. Specifically the largest one, the Funafuti Marine Conservation Area, or Kongatapu. Basically, the entire western side of the atoll is preserved for wildlife conservation. No fishing is allowed here, which helps marine and bird wildlife flourish. Hawksbill and leatherback sea turtles nest peacefully here with no natural predators. Giant morays, white-capped reef sharks, and scalloped hammerheads can be found here as well. Fun fact, moray eels are respected and almost never hunted. Plus, look at how adorable they are! Ah, cute little giant moray eels. 35 species of birds nest on these islands as well, like terns, sandpipers, frigates, and boobies. Sandpipers. Unfortunately, due to increased temperatures and acidity caused by El Nino events in the late 90s and early 2000s, about 70% of the staghorn coral has been bleached within Tuvalu's coral reefs. Fortunately, rehabilitation projects have been implemented and people have been addressing this problem, such as introducing foraminifera, which attaches themselves to the deceased coral to help rebuild the ecosystem. Save the coral! Only marine mammal species are natural to Tuvalu, like ginkgo tooth-beaked whales, pygmy killer whales, and pan-tropical spotted dolphins, who call the waters in and around Tuvalu home. Well, that's your briefing on the animals of Tuvalu. I hope you too can value Tuvalu and its wildlife. Goodbye!
Thank you, Gary. As you can see, Tuvalu may not have a lot above sea level, but an entire world below it. And one other thing they have quite a variety in. Are you ready for it? Food! With that, let's go back to Geography Lototele to explain the cuisine of Tuvalu. Take it away.
Alright guys, I'm back. I'm gonna give you a taste of what we love to eat here. Just like most Polynesian, we have high diet in coconut, breadfruit. Sometimes we eat talo, but we also have this thing called pulaka, which is similar to talo. Talo is more difficult to grow in Tuvalu. And from there, you can have meals like from a pulaka, you can have fikei. From a breadfruit, we call mei. Fali for mei falai. Of course, the coconut. You can also eat the little seed that's growing inside. We call that a utanu. You can also eat laukatafa, soft part of it. It's like a leaf. We call it a laulu. But Tuvalu also has something which most Polynesia, mainly the big Polynesian islands don't have. And the kaleve is tori, which we make from a coconut tree. But of course, with no surprise, we are a heavy seafood nation. We love fish. Here's some fish. Bang, there's one there, bang, there's another, bang, and so many more. And yeah, I hope this helps. If you're looking to gain some muscle, then I just suggest you come and eat our food. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lototele. Alright, well with that, I guess I, Noah, have completed the segment, so I guess I will just have to roll out!
Thank you, Noah. So yeah, Tuvalu, atolls, coral lagoons, so much to see and experience. But who will you meet when you go there?
Me.
The Tuvaluans! Yes, that brings us to the next segment. Let's find out in... So I asked Carrie what makes a Tuvaluan stick out from other Polynesian countries, and she said something like this. Hey, you Samoan?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, we're cousins!
We're cousins!
Samoans!
Yeah, Samoans!
Get a Geography Now mug.
Hey, man, are you Tongan?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I met you at Alyssa's wedding.
Oh! We're cousins!
Oh, we're cousins! Oh, yeah!
Hey, you're Tuvaluan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which department?
Vaitupu.
Oh, Niutau.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Get a Geography Now mug at geographynow.com.
And a Random Hannah t-shirt.
Yeah, there is kind of a disconnect between them and the other atolls.
That is right. You know, we are all different. We have such huge prides about where we come from.
Specifically the island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's even though it's a tiny country, I don't know all the Tuvaluans, and I'm not related to everyone.
But everybody in their island cluster knows everybody. Yeah, interesting. It's such a small population, but there's so much diversity and things happening in each community across the atolls. But first, ethnically, here's how the country breaks down.
First of all, the country has about 12,000 people and is the third least populated country on Earth after Nauru, and although it is under observer status with the UN, the Vatican City. The country is predominantly Polynesian Tuvaluan at somewhere around 94% of the country, whereas the remaining 6% are made up mostly of Micronesian descended Tuvaluans that mostly live on the Nui Atoll. Otherwise, they're estimated to be less than 0.5% non-Oceanian peoples, mostly European and Asian.
For currency, we use Australian dollars and Tuvaluan dollars. Keep in mind, they're actually just variations of Australian dollars or coins.
Tuvalu also uses a type I plug outlet, and they drive on the left side of the road, even though many areas only have like one lane, so it doesn't really matter, but yeah.
Also in Tuvalu, be prepared to use cash. We do not have ATMs. Your credit card ain't gonna work there, but you can change your currency in the National Bank of Tuvalu.
The official languages of Tuvalu are obviously Tuvaluan, their own language, and English, co-official. Now, Tuvaluan as a Polynesian language is related to other other Polynesian languages. So, like, can you understand Samoan or Tongan when you hear it being spoken?
Our language is pretty similar to Samoan and Tongan. I don't know if they would understand me though.
But you can understand them better.
Yes.
Okay.
The Nui people, so they speak some sort of Kiribati. When I would go there, I would have my niece, nephew, or whoever to translate for me.
Now let's talk about how the country operates legislatively. Politically speaking, there's almost like two systems, the government and the Falekaupule, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. So basically, Tuvalu is a parliamentary democracy with a unicameral parliament of 16 members and a prime minister.
Constitutionally, though, the British monarch is our figurehead, head of state. This means the British monarch has pretty much no say, in our domestic affairs, but is still listed on paper as formality. Otherwise, in a village communal scale, the Falekaupule, or traditional assembly of elders, is important to the country as well.
Every island or atoll besides Funafuti and Nanumanga have ulualikis, which means head of chief of the island.
On Funafuti, we don't say ulualiki, we say ulufenua, which is the island chief, and the ulualiki is always a pastor or the head of the Tuvaluan church.
And on Nanumanga, they use the title tupu, which actually means king, but he just acts like a chief, like any other island.
Each ulualiki or ulufenua or the tupu has a tukumuna, which is spokesperson for them. So they do most of the talking or emceeing, unless the high chiefs want to make an important speech.
And from there, they have the matai, which is like the head of the families. Usually it's an elder male.
On the island of Nafuti, the matai, the ulualiki, ulufenua, the tukumuna, they eat together. But if everyone is done, but the ulualiki or, the pastor is not done eating, they have to wait.
You can't move.
You wait for them.
You gotta wait.
They won't do that.
They probably won't do that though, yeah. Most villages have a Falekaupule or Maneapa, the traditional island meeting hall where the community events or elder meetings occur. It's very similar to Samoa and Tonga. We already expressed that in the episode, yeah.
But we're better. I'm just joking.
Religion. The vast majority of the country is Christian, mostly belonging to the Church of Tuvalu, a denomination that leans more on the Calvinist side of theology.
Christianity was actually brought over by Alikana, Polynesian deacon from the Cook Islands who drifted at sea and was shipwrecked on Nuku'alai.
Oh, that was a bit of information. Yeah, maybe we should take a break and let some of the other co-hosts have their moments in the spotlight.
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with sports of Tuvalu.
Sports of Tuvalu. With that, you know who it is. It's time for Art with the sports part. Art, we summon you.
Oh no, my secret has been revealed. Tuvalu. They've competed in the Pacific Games, the Commonwealth Games, and made their debut in the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Although they haven't received any Olympic medals yet, they've gotten quite a few at the Pacific Games, including 2 gold medals in powerlifting and table tennis. In fact, weightlifting and powerlifting seems to be their strongest event, with 6 of their 10 Pacific Game medals in those fields. Otherwise, let's talk about traditional sports. Many Tuvaluans may refer you to 2 sports, Te Ano and Kilikiti. It's where you kill a kitty.
Not quite.
No, we're not killing cats here. Te Ano is a sport like volleyball, but with no net, played between 2 teams with 2 balls made of dried coconut and pandanus leaves. Also, whenever a team scores, they do a little chant and dance. Kilikiti, on the other hand, is a sport similar to cricket. It was actually brought over from Samoa. It's basically a faster-paced version of cricket with a thinner bat and no padding. And of course, when they score a point, they do a little chant, they do a little dance. Yeah, baby, I scored some points. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going down. It's weird. As for football, soccer, so far their national team only competes in the Pacific Games. As of right now, they are part of the OFC and they are seeking membership into FIFA. They have only 1 national stadium for all sports teams to practice on, so when it gets booked out, oftentimes they will just use the airport runway as a flat surface to practice on. Hopefully they don't get run over by any planes. Their largest sporting events, though, would probably be the Independence Day Sports Festival on October 1st and the Tuvalu Games held every year in April. The Tuvalu Games are like their own little mini Olympics among the islands. It's a big day! Who do you think's gonna win, Tarchin? The Funifuti or the 9222? I'm betting on the Namumea. They're training hard this year. Oh shoot. Actually, me and Tarchin are the same person. How can we exist in the same place at the same time? It's not gonna work! Ah!
Thank you, Art.
What?
Oh, by the way, Kira, you were telling me something about the traditional adoption thing in Tuvalu. Can you explain what is that?
We call it Saituangane or Saitaina. If I wanted Paul to be my brother, I just ask him. If he says yes, he becomes my brother.
You just ask.
Yeah, I just ask.
No parent approval.
Nope. And then Paul can come visit my family, you know. He becomes my brother and I become his sister. Word of mouth adoption.
So Saituangane is if someone of the opposite gender from you asks you to be a sibling. Where Saitaina is when, like, if another dude asked me to be his brother.
Yeah.
Or something like that, where a girl asked you to be a sister.
Yeah.
Got it, okay. It's not like an actual paperwork thing, it's just word of mouth.
Oh yeah,
And it happens all the time in Tuvalu.
absolutely.
And do these people actually like end up living in your house sometimes, or how does it work?
Yes, my brother, we did the same thing. So my sisters asked him. 7 years ago, he lived with us and he just became part of the family.
So yeah, as you can see, so much diversity and crazy stuff going on in Tuvalu, such a small country. But let's kind of finish off this culture segment with Random Hannah with culture stuff. Hannah, take it away.
Wearing a blood shirt. Get a Random Hannah shirt at geographynow.com. So in Tuvalu, you have a country with 8 very spread apart, very distinct communities that all kind of have their own stories and customs. For one, the traditional community system, or Nganu, still survives to a large extent. Each family traditionally had their own role, or poto, to perform in the community. These included things such as fishing, house building, or defense. And as people of the water, everybody has at least one family member that fishes to provide for them.
Huh. We should hang out sometime.
Like many other Pacific Islander nations, things like cotton or wool didn't exist, so most traditional clothing had to be made of cellulosic fibers or soft leaf and tree bark that was master woven into thread like kolokolo or coconut fiber strings. Titi tau and titi kawulama, traditional skirts made of dried woven and colorful dyed pandanu sleeves. Every island is known for their distinct head garment, and it supposedly all started with nukufatau. I'm getting better at pronunciating these things. We're 3 years into geography now, and I'm doing great.
Remember when you first started, the word was like the, and you're like,
Comment down below how
I dropped the book.
Although it has been phased out in many islands, if you are lucky, you might come across an umu, or traditional thatched house made of timber frames with a palm leaf shingled roof and side shutters that are lowered when it rains. Usually the floor is raised and softened with woven coconut frond mats. It's actually better for your back to sleep on a hard surface. Do you know that? Like your spine, it's better. During weddings, it's almost like a competition between the bride and groom side of the families to see who can provide the best feast. They also have Falatua Agane, where all the siblings and cousins of the opposite gender of the bride or groom come to shower the bride and groom with gifts. Oftentimes, money is a preferred option. This usually involves the fatele dance, which means, to explain a bit more on the music, dance-related customs of Tuvalu, we have to move on to Keith's stupid music segment!
Also, he was just in a hurricane. Maybe we could use
Well, who cares?
Woo! What's up, everybody? I survived yet another hurricane. Thank you, Nicole, for flooding all the homes here and wreaking havoc and not being very nice to us. Mother Nature. Anyways, so Tuvalu, like other Polynesian nations, has a strong traditional music culture heavily rooted in percussion and vocals. Each island kind of has their own thing going on, but basically they have their own version of fatele, or dance song. It starts slow, then speed up and get louder, and everyone joins in, and then blammo! It's like a big giant climax, and everything stops abruptly. Kind of like those EDM concerts where it's like you'll be listening to like Deadmau5 or something, and you'll be building up the beat, and you just can't stop but dance and dance and dance, and then bloom! And then you're just like, woo! It was even performed for Prince William and Kate Middleton, sorry. The dances are usually performed with 2 main percussion instruments, the bokisi, which is kind of like a wooden box or cajon, and a burned biscuit tin called the kape. These instruments were actually items that were originally brought in from the British during colonial times and adapted as sound boxes since they have a nice amplified tone when you hit it, which is pretty dope. Songs don't really follow like a Western style format of, you know, having like a verse, chorus, like a 4/4 meter kind of deal. I find that quite interesting. They usually follow a unique style of poetic repetition of key words and lines that have the same number of syllables. By the way, this song means the paddle of the gods, the paddle of men. Take the paddle, Seize the paddle. Oh my paddle! What, a paddle? They love paddles. Otherwise, in a contemporary sense, genres like Polynesian reggae and polypop are usually the styles they put more emphasis on in the country. Some artists include people like these. I'm gonna point to the corner right now. And alrighty, that's it for me. By the way, guys, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, I'm actually gonna be giving away a bunch of vinyl records here coming up. I'm gonna be talking a lot about a lot of great music, a lot of great bands from around the world, support local music and local artists, blah, 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 and all that fun stuff. Anyways, my name is Keith. I love you all. Goodbye! Woo!
Thank you, Keith.
DJ Dove, what's up? That's my cousin.
He's your cousin. Okay, that was a ton of information. This might actually be one of the most informative videos solely dedicated to Tuvalu on YouTube. Like, seriously, there aren't a lot of them.
I hope it is. It's crazy how much information you can get out of this small country.
Exactly.
We deserve longer episodes, dude.
Yeah, I know. It was like 8 years ago. I just started the channel and the format evolved so much over the years. Just give me a break.
Well, speaking of other countries, let's talk about the ones that Tuvalu likes to interact with in our next segment, shall we?
Shall we? So when you're a small coral atoll nation in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you kind of can't really isolate yourself.
You need to reach out not only for social comfort, but for survival. Here's how it plays out for Tuvalu.
For one, as a member of the Commonwealth, Tuvalu has some degree of connection to the UK and other member states across the world and participates in some of the diplomatic and economic activities fostered between them, one of which being one of their closest friends, Fiji. Fiji is like Tuvalu's link to the world, offering most of the only direct flights and nearly half of all imports. Fiji holds one of the only 3 Tuvaluan embassies abroad, and many Tuvaluans live seasonally in Fiji. Culturally speaking though, kinda depends on who you ask in Tuvalu. Some might say that Samoa and Tonga are the closest because Tuvaluans are mostly descended from them, and the cultural tropes and traditions between these countries are very similar, including the languages. Of course, if you ask people from the Nui Atoll, they might say that the people of Kiribati are their closest cousins, and Kiribati is the only other country that offers direct flights to Tuvalu. In that regard though, New Zealand in itself is also very close. For one, the constituent nations within New Zealand of Niue, Cook Islands, and Tokelau, as well as the Maori people within New Zealand, are other cultural cousins that follow certain similar Polynesian traditions and customs that can be found in Tuvalu as well. New Zealand also has a program called the Pacific Access Category, which allows a number of Tuvaluans to work abroad in New Zealand seasonally. New Zealand is a huge donor in aid, and they are also one of the only 3 countries that hold an embassy abroad for Tuvalu. When it comes to big time help friends though, most Tuvaluans might say Taiwan, which is disputed with the PRC, and Australia. Australia, along with the UK and New Zealand, are also one of the founding donors to Tuvalu's Trust Fund. Australia also has the Pacific Seasonal Worker Program that offers them work and accommodations seasonally in fields like agriculture, fishing, and tourism jobs. They also have a high commission in Funafuti, and the two get along great. Finally, Tuvalu is one of the only few countries that officially recognizes Taiwan over the PRC and has done so since 1979. Since then, Taiwan has funded things like mobile medical missions on remote islands of Tuvalu. They helped build the largest building in Tuvalu, the administration building in Funafuti. They've invested in land reclamation and agriculture projects. And finally, they are the last of the only 3 places with a Tuvaluan embassy abroad.
In conclusion, Carrie-Ann, you're the co-host, you're the Tuvaluan. I'm gonna give this to you. Take it away.
Nothing can compare to this place. Even though it's a small country, all the main islands have their own story. Come to Tuvalu and see it for yourself. Awe fia kilo ya sa tina Tuvalu, kai ako whakamoe nga, me adina me whain lato tauloto mai te video tēnei, e winga tau whenua. Whaftai lasi.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for being in this episode. Stay tuned. Uganda is coming up next.
Uganda.